I'd like to dedicate this video to my father who very recently passed away. I love you so much, Dad, and thank you for being such an amazing man and a wonderful engineer, and you are responsible for me making these rolling ball sculptures. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I edited this video a couple of weeks before he died, so it is all nice and jolly as per normal. So let's get on with the jolly stuff. Previously on RBS9, I made a baseboard with a hidden motor, a hidden power socket, and a hidden speed controller. This means that when I turn the knob, an M3 threaded rod rotates clockwise. Now, what am I building? Well, it's going to be a cylindrical shaped rolling ball sculpture, and the motor is going to drive a helical lift and lifts a series of balls from the bottom to the top. So, the next stage is to build the main cylindrical frame. Because I wanted 5 uprights, I had to mark out a hole position every 72 degrees. And I decided to place the helical lift halfway between 2 of them. Then I took everything off the bottom to allow the holes to be easily drilled. I had to remove the motor to remove the axle because I previously decided to use thread lock, which does work very well. Now I'm using M4 threaded rods inside 5mm copper tubes, so all my holes needed to be 4mm in diameter. I marked the drill positions 15mm in from the outside, and then I realised that one of the hole positions caused a problem. Ah, look, I have been clever in spotting this. Look, if I drill a hole here, ching ching ching, it will come here, which will be a bit horrible. Right, so I need to think about that. I think it's going to be okay. I mean, what's that? That's 22. I went 11 instead. So, 11mm it was. Time to act. I set up my pillar drill to help me get the holes vertical. But there was not enough travel on the drill, so I had to finish them off by hand. On the underside, I eventually chose a 13mm drill to enable the lower nut and washer to be sunk into the baseboard and become invisible from the outside. I decided to use lock nuts, and I will come back later and also add some of that lovely thread lock. You don't want anything rattling apart on these things. Once I'd done that, the 5 rods, the washers and all the nuts were nicely hidden away. Then I refitted the axle to check on the overall height that the helical lift could be. I make it around 33cm, so a full height of all the other uprights should be something like 35cm. So I cut all of the 5 tubes to exactly the same length. There's the thread lock and the lock nut that will be underneath. Then I put the threaded rod through the tube, marked the height, and cut those all to the right height as well. On the top I use these lovely brass dome nuts. And then I had 5 perfectly spaced, perfectly vertical supports done. thought I'd tell you a little bit about my dad. He was an engineer. He worked in the electricity generation side of things here in the UK, so he used to run power stations in London and he knew how they worked. And then eventually he ended up kind of advising the government on energy efficiency, so how many power stations we needed, where they needed to be, how long they would last, how much money they would cost, how efficient they were, and basically what to do in the future when all the coal and gas ran out. So he worked in advising them on nuclear and tidal and wind and solar and things like that. And this was all through the 60s, 70s and 80s, so he was well ahead of his time in making sure that the whole of the country was set up. One of his main hobbies was railways. He was an absolute train buff. He loved trains, and he got into model railways as a 4-year-old, and he was still doing them aged 84. And I've got massive fond memories of him generating the most amazing model railways, not only in the house, but he made these mobile display layouts that we would take out and go fundraising together. And I just loved being by his side, playing trains, watching him design these things. He's produced books and books and books on it. And probably about 10 years ago I decided to make my own model railway and kind of be a bit like him, but I just wasn't really into trains, and so that's how I ended up making these rolling ball sculptures instead. In my mind they are a bit like a railway in that you've got a left track and a right track and some sleepers in the middle. It's just that mine can go quite fast and do loop-the-loops and things like that. So in my mind, when I make these rolling ball sculptures, I'm thinking of my dad. They are my train track type thing, and I just love making these things roll around for the pure pleasure of it. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.